Vulnerability to my nervous system sounded like a risk. It sounded like being in a forest full of lions. Being quiet is all I knew, and it was a survival mechanism right from childhood. And I'm learning to really undo that. Your feelings deserve space too. You are allowed to express them. You're allowed to speak honestly. You're allowed to, hold emotional space without being judged for it, without apologizing for it. For a long time, I kept quiet about things that hurt me. I was silent when I was struggling. I was silent when I felt misunderstood. I was silent when I needed support. And from the outside in, looking from the outside in, it looked like I was just being private, but really, silence became a survival mode for me. I think a lot of people don't realize how much pain can hide behind being saying I'm fine. Sometimes silence isn't peace; it's fear of being judged. Sometimes it's fear of being misunderstood, fear of becoming too much for others. For other people to feel like you are a burden when you express yourself. Okay, and honestly, I carried that for so long. In fact, that is all I knew. Okay. So I learned how to suppress my feelings instead of just expressing them. Okay. At some point, I just developed this thing of I convinced myself that staying quiet was easier. It was easier than expressing how I felt. It was easier than, risking the rejection, risking feeling vulnerable because I had perceived that vulnerability welcomes abuse, just from past experiences. So I carried that into my adulthood. And instead of expressing my emotions, I learned how to suppress them. I kept everything inside. I kept everything inside, even though internally I was exhausted, I was crumbling. I needed help. I needed to be rescued. It's not rescued like damsel in distress, but I needed that strength. I needed a shoulder to lean on. I needed to let things out instead of just suppressing and bottling everything down. It became so overwhelming that, it even affected my health, physically, mentally. I was off. I was so numb. I've been numb for years. I can't, it is like I have so many. I don't know. Like I have very not so many. I have little seasons where I can tell, or occasions where I can pinpoint. Like yeah, I was so happy. Yeah, I was so excited. Like my life was just a straight line. If I'm laughing, it's just something is just funny, and then I just go back and I retreat. I was living like a gray rock. You know, I knew it. I knew I was numb, so I just held back. And holding back, it keeps you from living life because you can't participate in relationships. You don't feel anything. You don't want to be vulnerable. You just prefer to be quiet. So life kind of just passes you by. So being quiet is all I knew, and it was a survival mechanism right from childhood. And I'm learning to really undo that. Okay. One of the many reasons why I started this platform so that I can talk. I barely talk to people. I barely speak. So at least I hope I just this exposure therapy, being in front of the camera is quite it's therapy by itself. So I think by talking and by coming out, it's a step towards healing, a step towards journey, and even showing other people that this thing is possible, and that is not how to live life. Okay. Now, another thing about being silent for so long is that silence became my comfort zone, right? The scary thing about silence after a long time is just it feels normal. It just becomes you. You stop speaking out for yourself, you stop expressing your needs, you start shrinking to a version that who you are not, okay? And with time, people know you as that silent, that quiet version of you. not the real version of you, who you are, who you really are, the version that is hurting underneath everything, that is crashing under the weight of life and the world. And because it became normal, you just say it's like it's just part of you, and you are not perceived truly and correctly. And when you're not perceived truly, you feel not seen. And that even makes you even retreat inside even more and become quiet even more. So it's just a vicious cycle, right? Now, another reason why I stayed silent for so long is because I was afraid of being misunderstood, right? And this is really big for me. I've been misunderstood a lot. People project on me a lot. One of the biggest reasons why I stayed silent is because I did not feel emotionally safe to fully be honest or to fully just open up as to truly how I feel, okay? Because sometimes when you open up, you are dismissed, you are judged, you're invalidated. It's not that big of a deal. I haven't exaggerated with things like that. And after enough experiences, you begin to believe that your feelings are not important. It's better to just keep them to yourself. And that leads to you suppressing your feelings, and you quietly live a life that is, you are detached from life because you don't express yourself. Therefore, you're treated differently from how you should be treated, and you don't speak up for yourself, and you create this reality that doesn't really align with you. And in time, it eats you up. Okay, it really eats you up. Now, with all that being silent brought to me, I started my journey towards healing. And a point is, healing has taught me that my voice matters too. One thing about healing is it shows you that your feelings deserve space too. You are allowed to express them, you're allowed to speak honestly, you're allowed to, hold emotional space without being judged for it, without apologizing for it. It's not a crime to express yourself. It's not a crime to say that you're hurt. It's not a crime to say that you're not happy with something. It's not a crime to say that you prefer something other than you prefer other thing, okay? And slowly, I've been learning that vulnerability is not weakness, right? Because that thing about vulnerability has made me, I'm already introverted. So I'm already closed off. Now, it was even harder for me to cultivate relationships because being in relationships means being vulnerable, and vulnerability to my nervous system sounded like a risk. It sounded like being in a forest full of lions. You can be preyed on. It felt like welcoming abuse, and I had to unlearn all that. And during my healing journey, it has revealed to me that actually being vulnerable is one of the bravest thing you can ever do. It's very relieving. And yes, people, some people, narcissists may take advantage of that, but if it's coming from a place of wholeness, nothing can shake you up, nothing can take you off. Okay, with all of that, I come to this point of breaking the silence. And breaking silence doesn't always happen loudly. It sometimes shows up quietly as setting boundaries, saying how you truly feel, being honest with yourself, and even asking for help when you need it. And just even now, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. And I'm unlearning that habit of shrinking myself and hiding my voice, and learning that my voice deserves to be heard, that I actually have something to say, and it is worth hearing, and it's worth being heard. Okay. To anyone who feels the same, if you have been silent for a long time, and I want you to know something, that you are not weak for struggling to speak out for yourself, okay? It's not lack of emotion. Sometimes, most of the times, it's just survival mechanism, all right? And sometimes healing And sometimes it comes part of you to the point you identify it as it's part of you, like it's part of your personality. But really, you're just in survival mode, and it doesn't mean you lack emotion, right? You just need a safe space to express yourself, and most of the time it's not going to come from the outside. It's going to come from you giving yourself that chance to create that safe space for yourself. It begins with you. It doesn't begin with the world. The world always responds later after you have done the work. Okay. So healing means that you no longer have to carry everything alone. Okay. Express yourself, and detach from the outcome. Just give yourself that space to to talk. One of the most freeing things we can do for ourselves is stop pretending that we're okay. Not for attention, not for pity, but just from a place of honesty. Because honesty is where healing begins. And maybe our voice won't come back all at once, maybe just a little, but even that a little, that slowly, gently, it's a step towards healing. It's a step towards a better version of yourself. It's a step outside that cage of being small, of being quiet and, unformidable. But give yourself a chance to return to that place, a chance for your voice to come back slowly. Even if it's taking too long, just be patient with yourself and let it return anyway, right? If this resonated with you, comment healing down below so that I know we are not alone. And if you have ever struggled, or if you're struggling with staying silent about your pain and about, life, just life in general, I hope this reminds you that your voice matters too. And do not forget to subscribe, share so that it can get to someone who can be of help, can help someone. And also support your girl. I'm trying to get to 50 subscribers. I just need a class of 50 subscribers, okay? So see you on the next one.